They called her the girl. Not Ngozi, not child, not even maid. Just the girl. And that was when they were in a good mood. When they were angry, they called her Thing, that came from nowhere. Welcome to Niger Prince Folktales. Subscribe for fresh content, and let's explore the richness of tales. Join our community of like-minded story lovers. Please subscribe, share, and comment for new stories every week. Thanks. Let's know where you are watching from in the comments section. The compound she lived in at Allegbedo buzzed every morning with the footsteps of Madam Comfort's children. 3 grown adults who still live at home like they paid rent. Each one of them had mouths sharper than razors and hearts colder than Monday mornings. Ngozi, barely 13, would wake up before the rooster in the neighbor's compound even dared to stretch its throat. She would sweep the 3-bedroom bungalow, wash plates from last night's umla and yudu, fetch water from 2 streets away, then rush back to make breakfast that only she would not eat. By 7 a.m., her slippers were already wet from tears and soap water. This tea is tasteless. Do you want to poison us, you cursed child? That was from Bunmi, the eldest daughter of the house, in her 20s but still shouting at a girl who hadn't even finished JSS 3. Ngozi kept her head down, her hands trembling as she held the stainless tray. Madam Comfort sat across the dining table like a crowned queen, wrapper tied above her chest, her eye bags heavy with gossip and laziness. "Don't mind her," she hissed. "She thinks because I picked her from that orphanage, she can now be dragging survival with us." Everyone laughed. Ngozi didn't. She didn't cry either. She hadn't cried since the day she watched her mother lowered into the red soil of Ebonyi State. That day, she had vowed that if the world wouldn't remember her name, she'd carve it into history herself, even if it was with the back of a spoon. The wickedness wasn't just in words. It was also in the way they made her wash the walls of the house every Saturday, because spirits might be hiding in the dirt. It was in how they made her eat in the backyard under the guava tree, as if her presence would contaminate their dining table. She never went to school. Madam Comfort had promised the orphanage she'd enroll her, but that was 2 years ago. Now, Ngozi read old newspapers and borrowed textbooks from neighbors' children, only when she finished her work before midnight. She had taught herself how to solve simultaneous equations using a pencil shorter than her thumb. And yet, nobody saw her. Nobody asked how she felt. Nobody noticed the bruises on her knees from scrubbing the compound floor with palm fronds. To them, she was a ghost, alive but unrecognized. But heaven was watching. One evening, as she sat outside picking beans in silence, she whispered into the air, "God, if you're truly there, let me matter someday. Let my name mean something." A breeze blew, and a paper floated past her feet. She picked it. It was a torn flyer, the ink half faded from rain. But one thing was clear: National Secondary School Scholarship Exam for talented underprivileged children. Ngozi stared at it, heart pounding. The deadline was in 4 days. She had no money, no registration form, and no one to help. But what she had was hunger. Not the kind that made your stomach growl, but the kind that made your soul restless. She folded the paper, hid it inside her pillow, and whispered to herself that night, "They might not know my name now, but they will." For the next 2 days, Ngozi moved like a spy in her own house. She had hidden the torn scholarship flyer inside an old Bible Madam Comfort never opened, because the only verse Madam liked was the one that said, "Spare the rod, and you know the rest." The problem now wasn't just how to register. It was where. The flyer said, "Form available at Unity Secondary School Office, Ackerley Road." That was a full 45-minute walk. And even worse, it was the same time Madam Comfort usually sent her to the market. But then God, in his usual dramatic fashion, gave her an opening. On Wednesday morning, Madam Comfort shouted from the bathroom, "Girl, my okra and pomo soup is finished. Go to the market and come back in 30 minutes or else." Ngozi's heart danced. She tied her wrapper, wore her market slippers, with one side already folding like tired bread, and grabbed the tray. But instead of turning toward the local market, she turned toward Ackerley Road. Every step felt like a gamble. Her slippers flapped loudly. Her heart raced faster. Her hands trembled as she gripped the 1,500 Nigerian nairas Madam gave her. She reached Unity's secondary school gate and whispered to the gateman, "Sir, please?" "I heard about the scholarship form." The man eyed her from head to toe, then called someone inside. A kind-looking secretary peeped out and saw Ngozi standing there in a faded blouse and dust-stained wrapper. Instead of asking questions, she smiled softly and said, "You came for the form? It's 500 Nigerian nairas. If you can bring passport photo tomorrow, you can fill it and sit for the exam on Saturday." Ngozi nodded like a chicken drinking water. She reached into the tray, removed 500 Nigerian nairas, and collected the form. She had committed financial suicide in that moment. Because you see that okra soup Madam Comfort wanted? She was now 500 Nigerian nairas short. Back home, she dashed to the kitchen, sliced just 5 okras and 1 small pepper, added crayfish, and poured water till it looked like river. She prayed Madam wouldn't notice. But of course, Madam Comfort had a tongue sharper than a cash counting machine. "Why is the soup watery like rainwater?" Ngozi stammered. I think the okra was not fresh." Madam hissed, flung the spoon, and shouted, "God punish you, girl. You want to kill me with high blood pressure in this house." Slap, hot slap, the kind that rearranges your thoughts. But Ngozi didn't cry, because in her heart, something stronger than fear was growing. A seed, a small belief that maybe, just maybe, she'd escape this someday. That night, she washed her school uniform from primary school. Yes, the one they threw away after her mother died. It still had her name written faintly at the collar. Ngozi Amadi. She ironed it with metal plate warmed over fire, stitched the torn skirt with her last thread, and begged Mama Kafayat, the neighbor, for 2 passport photos from her leftover album stack. On Saturday morning, while the rest of the house slept, Ngozi left the house with her Bible and a pencil. She reached the exam center, sat beside students who came in air-conditioned cars, and wrote the test with all the strength in her body. No breakfast, no promise, just raw, desperate determination. When she submitted her paper, the invigilator asked for her name. She smiled, not the scared smile of a house girl, but the quiet, fiery smile of a girl who was no longer nobody. "My name is Ngozi Amadi," she said, "and I'm going to make it, watch me." The sun still rose, Madam Comfort still shouted, and Ngozi still worked like a rented soul. But something had changed inside her. Every time she fetched water, every time she bent to scrub the floor, every time she was called useless girl, her heart whispered back, "They'll know who I am soon. Just wait." And then, on the 3rd Friday of the month, it happened. A knock that silenced the street. It was around 9:42 a.m. Madam Comfort was inside, yelling at her children for finishing the last pack of Indomie without her permission. Ngozi was behind the house, washing clothes with her back bent like the letter C. Suddenly, there was a firm knock on the gate. Bam! Bam! "Good morning. Please, is this the residence of Miss Ngozi Amadi?" Everyone paused. Even the neighbor's chickens stopped pecking. "Who?" Madam Comfort asked, walking out with her wrapper falling off one shoulder. The man at the gate, well-dressed in a branded shirt that read, "Setboard," smiled. "We're from a national secondary school scholarship exam panel. We're looking for Ngozi Amadi. She won the national scholarship. Top 3 in the entire state." Boom! Like thunder without rain, silence fell. Ngozi heard it and dropped the bowl of wet clothes. She rushed forward, wiping her hands on her wrapper. The man turned, saw her, and smiled kindly. "You're Ngozi?" "Yes, sir. Congratulations. You just changed your life." He handed her a brown envelope. The top read, "Full Scholarship Award, Federal Girls College, Lagos. Tuition, boarding, allowance included." Tears rushed in Ngozi's eyes like water breaking through a dam. She hadn't cried in years, but today it was like heaven reached down and said, "You, yes you, I see you." You needed to see the shock on Madam's face. Eyeballs blinking, lips quivering, pride crumbling. "W-8 you wrote exam? In my house? Under my roof? You left this compound without permission." Her voice cracked like fried chin-chin, but the official wasn't done. "Ma, We also want to thank your household for housing this brilliant girl. She's going to be on TV next week for an interview. TV? Even Bunmi dropped her iPhone. Madam Comfort smiled a fake smile that looked like forced foo-foo. Ah, yes. We always believed in her. Oh, I've always told her, Ngozi, you are a star. Lie. Even the wall gecko hissed in disbelief. That night, she slept like royalty. They gave her jollof rice with beef. They gave her fana. They even let her sit on the living room couch. First time in 2 years. But Ngozi wasn't fooled. She knew fake love when she saw it. As she lay on her mat that night, she held the scholarship letter to her chest and whispered, God, this is just the beginning. Let them keep watching. Sunday came like a lion in heels. Ngozi wore her cleanest blouse and the old skirt she patched 3 times. Her envelope was tucked under her arm like treasure. She was to report at the scholarship board office on Monday morning for documentation and boarding arrangements. But as she packed her things in a small polythene bag behind the house, she didn't know her exit had already been sabotaged. Inside the living room, Madam Comfort was pacing like a rat near poison. She thinks she can just leave like that? After everything I've invested in her? Who will do the chores? Bunmi, chewing fried plantain, rolled her eyes. Mummy, let her go now. Let her suffer in that federal school. Maybe they'll flog her to sense. But Comfort wasn't done. God forbid. No child will just walk out of this house and come back with a certificate bigger than my own children. Lie. She dialed a number. The man on the other end was her cousin at the local council office. Help me block her from leaving. Say she doesn't have proper guardianship. Delay her. The plan? Get the officials to demand a certificate of release from an approved guardian. Of course, Ngozi had no such thing. But heaven was still on duty. That Monday morning, Ngozi arrived with her small bag and the envelope clutched to her chest. As she stood before the board office, 2 men approached her with folders. One looked up, checked her name, and frowned. Ngozi Madi? There's a hold on your clearance. Says your guardian has not approved your departure. Her heart stopped. She stammered, but I'm an orphan. They took me from a home. Madam Comfort isn't even my relative. Sorry, we can't proceed without a signature from her or someone certified. Her world dimmed. Everything spun. She was still the girl nobody wanted. Even when the world finally did. As the officials walked back inside, a woman in a wrapper and headscarf stepped out of a passing kiki and shouted, Ngozi, is this not you? Ah, it's me, Mama Kafayat. It was their neighbor. The same woman who sometimes gave her leftover rice and plasters for her bruises. She had seen Ngozi walking alone and followed the kiki. Something in her spirit told her to. She looked at the officers and said with full chest, I was the one that raised her. I'm her witness. Madam Comfort used her like groundnut oil. She said it so boldly, even heaven clapped. One of the officials frowned. Are you willing to sign as guardian? I am. She's mine. God gave her to me long before that which called her slave. They handed Mama Kafayat the form. She signed it without blinking. Freedom never tasted so real. Ngozi stood there, tears streaming down her face. Mama Kafayat hugged her tightly and whispered, Go, my child. Let them keep dragging floor tiles in that house. You're going to walk on marble. As the bus to the school compound arrived and Ngozi climbed in, her heart was lighter than ever. She looked out of the window as the street passed her by, and for the first time, her name sounded different in her ears. It didn't sound like a burden. It sounded like a beginning. Ngozi Amadi, the girl they called nobody but who became something. 6 years later, a black Prado Jeep slowly cruised into Alabedo's dusty street, its tires humming a rhythm only success knows. Kids playing with bottle caps paused. Shopkeepers leaned forward. The compound gate of Madam Comfort creaked open like it, too, wanted to witness what was coming. Inside the Jeep sat a woman. Not a girl. A woman. Tall. Melanin rich. In a fitted sky blue power suit. Her natural hair packed in a bun that screamed class. Eyeglasses sitting like royalty. And a black handbag that cost more than Madam Comfort's entire sitting room. Her name tag read, Ngozi Amadi, ESQ, human rights and educational equity advocate. Madam Comfort nearly choked on her groundnut. She was sitting outside fanning herself when the gate opened and the Prado pulled up. When Ngozi stepped out, Comfort blinked, then blinked again, then gasped, "Wait, is this Ngozi?" Bunmi came out with a towel over his shoulder, took one look, and nearly fell. "Hey, God of Thunder, Mummy, now that may girl be this But it was too late. Ngozi was already walking toward them, heels clicking like judgment bells. She stopped right in front of them and smiled. Not with revenge, with power. "Good afternoon. I'm here for 2 reasons. Reason 1, sweet vengeance. First, to thank you. Because if you hadn't treated me like trash, I wouldn't have fought so hard to matter. Every slap, every hunger, every insult built this version of me." Madam Comfort stammered. "Ngozi, we were just trying to raise you." "Raise me? You nearly buried me alive. But it's okay. God raised me himself." She turned to Bunmi. "How's your WAC result?" "Oh, wait, you didn't write it right." Bunmi hissed and disappeared inside. "Secondly," Ngozi said, reaching into her handbag and pulling out a white envelope. "Asterisk, I'm opening a foundation, the Nobody Initiative, to sponsor maids and abused girls across Nigeria. I want to start by renovating the house I grew up in. Not because you deserve it, but because I do. I want no other girl to pass through what I passed through and end up invisible." Asterisk. Madam Comfort burst into tears. "Ngozi, please forgive me." "I already did," Ngozi replied, slipping her sunglasses back on. "The day I stopped being afraid of you." She drove off, and the wind knew her name. As the Jeep rolled away, kids in the street shouted, "Auntie Lawyer! Auntie Lawyer!" She smiled and waved, but in her chest, one voice echoed louder than them all. "You're not a nobody anymore." No, she was Ngozi Amadi. The girl they called Nobody became unforgettable. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.